Hello, everyone. Welcome back to All I Think About. Today, we'll be talking about who am I? Hello, my name is Srash. My pronouns are he, they. I am a neuroqueer artist. I have borderline personality disorder, complex post traumatic stress disorder, high performing depression, and anxiety. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety about 9 years ago. That is when I started my therapy journey. For CPTSD, I was diagnosed approximately 3 years ago, and borderline personality disorder just now, actually. I was diagnosed in September, or was it August? It was August. It was August. Anyway, so what is BPD? Anyway. So what is BPD? I am laughing. It's a form of regulating and coping. As you can see, I intellectualize the intellectualization of my feelings. About BPD, borderline personality disorder. I'm going to read this out, okay? Borderline personality disorder is a cluster B personality disorder. This disorder borders between psychosis. अबे कितना शोर मचा रहे हैं ये लोग? This हाँ? First of all, इस ज़माने में आप बुलेट क्यों चला रहे हो? Where is your electric vehicle? टेम्परेचर देखा आपने बाहर का? This disorder borders between psychosis and neurosis, hence the name borderline. We're in the borderline. Let's talk about some of the symptoms. We can divide this into three main categories. The first, रुको यार ये टेक्स्ट का कलर अच्छा नहीं है. और the first being behavioral. Some of the behavioral symptoms of BPD include antisocial behavior, compulsive behavior, hostility, impulsivity, irritability, risk-taking behavior, self-destructive behavior, self-harm, social isolation, or lack of restraint. Now, coming to the mood symptoms, you can experience anger, anxiety, general discontent, guilt, loneliness, mood swings, or sadness. In terms of the psychological, ये कितना ज़्यादा बुलेट कर रहे हैं बाहर? जाओ ना. If this can't be heard, you all will just... no, I think you can hear because this is loud. Can you hear? What a song. Psychological symptoms include depression, distorted self-image, grandiosity, or narcissism. You must be thinking, grandiosity and distorted self-image, how can they exist together? Well, that's the beauty of BPD. It fucking sucks. Also common thoughts of suicide. I have that. Oh god, I don't think I'm being very appropriate for the topic of this video, but this is the only way I'm being able to talk about it. So deal with it. Deal with my laughing. A little disclaimer for this video. I am not a professional. I'm just a silly guy. I'm just a silly goofy guy who has a silly little brain. So I'm talking about my experience. I'm also talking about what I've understood from my mental health practitioners. I'm talking about what exists online, things that I've understood from pattern recognition, things that I've understood from my psychology textbooks from school and from college, Googles. I just want to put that disclaimer in. I'm not a professional. I have a mass media degree. And even then, I'm bad at communication. But God help me. If there is anything that you think I got wrong or something you want to add a little more context to, please feel free to comment it under this video. If there are some factual inaccuracies in this video, I will take the time out to correct them in the next video because I should. And like I mentioned, I am not a practitioner. I only have a mass media degree. I am masters in silly guy. I am PhD in goofyology. I just be saying things. Please remember this about this video. The diagnosis for BPD is usually given around late adolescence, early adulthood, and there's a reason for this. It's the fact that unstable emotions, unstable relationships, emotional dysregulation, things like that, you also experience during your teenage years. You might. I mean, it has been noticed that you usually do. And so the thing is कि the mental health practitioners will be like, तो तुम teenager हो कि तुम BPDer हो? तो then they will like wait, they'll like observe कि क्या है आपका. Let's talk about who gets diagnosed with BPD. So the thing is, literally anyone, but it's not that simple. Obviously, a lot of factors come into play in this. People who have a family history of BPD, mental illness, people who have gone through child sexual abuse, neglect in their childhood, people who have experienced unstable relationships over a long period of time usually get diagnosed with BPD. But the thing is, just like everything ever, it differs. For example, I think every single person has their own gender, and it's of course conservatives be like, तुम्हारे तो already gender थे और भी क्यों कर रहे हो?" Stop it. Because the thing is that you look at the men in your life, all of them have different ways of being a man. So if you check it out, all of them are their own gender. हाँ नहीं तो क्या? So the same way it's for everything. Every single person has their own experiences that have led up to this moment in time. We need to take that into account, alright? The thing is, you're an ever-changing, growing person. So that is also something you need to take into account. क्या ही करें हम? After hearing these vague-ass answers from me, you must be thinking, then it's entirely possible that I've been suffering with something my whole life and I just didn't get diagnosed. What if I am only a disorder? Like, I can be Srishti a disorder. Why the fuck not? Population 1. One of the biggest characteristic features of BPD is emotional dysregulation. Guess what? I'm a champion at that. I hate my life. I hate this world, by the way. Just letting you know. It sucks. I don't like this world. I have a few metaphors for you to describe BPD. There was a point in time where I thought I am just a newborn baby in a world full of adults and I'm gonna keep crying, but nobody's going to understand me because I'm just crying and they'll be like, बच्चा रो मत, क्या चाहिए, खाना चाहिए, ये चाहिए वो, and then at some point it's just like, यार मैं और क्या करूँ? Bye. You will just get up. So that is, sometimes I feel like that. Sometimes BPD to me feels like my entire world falls apart every single day and I'm supposed to piece it back together every single morning, and I'm expected to catch up with everyone else despite the fact that I have these 50 lakh shards of glass all over my room that I need to collect before I get to work, before I get to school, etc. One of these metaphors that I used actually very early on in therapy, this was in the year 2022, I told my therapist, sometimes it feels like there's a thin membrane right in the cross section of my body, and everything that passes through it feels like it has been multiplied by 1,000. So everything, every water molecule, every molecule of air, every food molecule, every single thing that ever passes through it is just too much. It's too much. And the thing is that this membrane is inside. Nobody can, x-ray EFI ऐसे and be like, अच्छा तुम membrane वाले हो, हाँ ठीक है समझ आ गया, chill करो. And so it becomes difficult for me because everything's feeling so intense. It also becomes difficult for everyone else because they don't know what is going on, only they don't know about this membrane. Sometimes I feel like I am an empty can that was thrown into the ocean and just expected to swim along with the fish. And the thing about cans, you know how they're like sharp, they can be sharks sometimes. Shark? they there are sharp edges for an opened can especially, and it's just like I'm just trying to be a fish among these fish, and I just keep poking them with my sharp edges, and they just like stop it, and I'm just like if I could, I would just become a fish. I really would. But I'm not a fish. I'm an empty can of soda with spikes. Once my friend described BPD as a raw nerve ending, and honestly, that changed my life. It's exactly what it feels like. Every day, I'm just like, can you please dial it down? Like, just a little, please. So, I mentioned to you that I got diagnosed just this year, in fact, very recently. And ever since my diagnosis, I have been reassessing my life through this new lens of BPD. And I'm realizing the signs were always there. And I was incredibly disappointed to get this diagnosis so late, because I was like, I could have done something. I could have prepared in advance. If you could have just told me what was going on. It's as if someone tells you, congratulations, you got into a college to study a course, and you're like and they just like figure it out. After speaking to my mental health practitioners, I realized that this disorder is actually extremely stigmatized, and people often hesitate to give this diagnosis to people. In fact, there are examples of people getting denied help from mental health practitioners because they have BPD. And it's just, then what do you do? Because it's like, I'm ready to learn, I'm ready to do whatever it takes. I have been going to therapy for 9 years, and over these 9 years, I have grown for sure. But I've also made mistakes, which everybody does. But at some point, I'm just like, aur kitna? Like, how many more lessons do I have to learn? A late diagnosis then becomes extremely detrimental for your growth journey, because it's like you have been preparing for a tennis match all your life, and then you show up for the match day and it's a weightlifting contest, or you enter a dark room with laser guns for a laser tag game, and then it's revealed to you that you're actually in a paintball game. What do you do then? This late diagnosis, it made me feel like I'm an experiment. How far can you go until someone just completely gives up? Is what it felt like. Since my diagnosis, as I mentioned earlier in the video, kind of jokingly, that I intellectualize the intellectualization of my feelings, I have understood various concepts that comprise BPD. There are concepts of a favorite person, concepts of identity confusion, emotional dysregulation. Because of the nature of our emotions being so volatile, so overwhelming, so constantly present, it gets very difficult to function. I have been constantly working on myself, building these different management strategies, coping strategies, ways to regulate, ways to exist in society, and be functional, high performing. I've done it all. And then to receive this diagnosis and be like, oh, by the way, this is also something that's wrong with you. Just mentioning it. And you're like, this changes everything. I realized that the signs were always there, and I was extremely disappointed with the fact that I got this diagnosis so late. I understand why the practitioners who were in my life did that, but I'm not okay with the fact that I got this diagnosis late. You need to question your mental health practitioners. You need to question them, because the thing is, they have the degree. So you'll be like, yeah, you're right. You're a doctor. I'm not going to be like, मैंने पढ़ा था कि mitochondria powerhouse of the cell नहीं है. I'm not going to do that to a doctor. First of all, I really like doctors. I think they're so hurt. That's not the point. I'm saying question them. I went up to my psychiatrist so many times, and one time I went up with a list. Okay, this was 2022. I went with a list and I was like, listen, I think I have BPD, and now you listen to me. These are the reasons why. And she was just like, I'm not convinced. And I was like, okay. I trust you. I should not have trusted her. Even if your source is like a TikTok video, an Instagram video, a post, just something you Googled, question them. Just be like, yes, my source is kind of stupid. So what? This is my experience. That doctor can't be like, एक बार अपना सिर इधर लाओ, अच्छा यहाँ पे तो ADHD पड़ा है आपका, तो ऐसे तो कोई डॉक्टर नहीं करने वाले ना. हमारी एक्सपीरियंस हमें सबसे अच्छे से पता है. तो गो हैड एंड से कि डॉक्टर, आई अंडरस्टैंड दैट दिस इज़ योर एरिया ऑफ एक्सपर्टीज, बट माई एरिया ऑफ एक्सपर्टीज इज़ all the L's I've taken in my life. So you listen to me, goddammit, and make them listen. Do it. This year has just been incredibly distressing. It has been horrible. My cat died a very tragic death, and I was admitted to the hospital right after that because they suspected that I had rabies. The worst part is that that wasn't the worst thing that happened. In April, I experienced something called a micropsychotic episode. This is something that people with BPD usually go through. This was actually one of the clearest signs of my BPD, but my practitioners, they still waited for a very long time before diagnosing me. This micropsychotic episode had a lot of collateral damage in my life. I lost some of the people I love the most because of it. There was so much confusion in my house. My parents were trying their best, were just like, मैं और क्या करूँ? And I'm just there at the epicenter, feeling like I caused it all. But the thing is, I was never like, today I am gonna ruin my life. I'm feeling a bit spicy today. No, I never did that. In fact, I did everything to not make sure that happens. I was constantly working on myself. In terms of my mental health journey, I have tried so many different things: fitness, journaling, coping with arts, like just everything. I've literally studied psychology, and I'll be looking at my textbook and there'll be coping strategies, and I'll just be like, oh, acha, theek hai, next time I can do this. Maybe I can try this grounding technique. Maybe I can do that. I spent 9 whole years just constantly being like, do this and you'll get better. Do this and you'll get better. There was a time when my therapist told me, don't do anything. Take a break from your healing journey. I did that. That also didn't help me get better. It was just like, where does this end? In your whole life, your healing never ends, which is a beautiful thing, that you will keep on healing. But it's also extremely petrifying because it means you'll have to work on it forever. And what really hurts is that I was up for the challenge, and that psychotic episode still happened. I still lost my best friends. I still feel like I lost everything. And the year progressively got worse, and I was just like, I was not even told what entirely was quote unquote wrong with me. There is a lot that comes with this diagnosis. It's first of all a chronic disorder. This is not something that gets cured. Your symptoms can be managed, you can get into remission, but this is not something you can't just wake up one day and not have borderline personality disorder. And so all of these things have a huge impact on a person. In terms of some of the details of my mental health journey, I have been 5 years clean of self-harm, but I do feel like I actively replaced self-harm with self-sabotage or self-destructive behaviors, which was again not something I opted for ever. In terms of BPD, there is impulsivity that lies within you, that it feels like your mind has a mind of its own, and you're like, how many minds do I have to think about? In terms of borderline personality disorder, there are other disorders that have overlapping symptoms. This is also something that causes problems sometimes for your diagnosis. For instance, I have CPTSD as well, and so it was assumed that, oh, my symptoms were actually a part of that. It was actually a part of borderline personality disorder. And this is just a very classic case of overlapping symptoms. It's honestly so upsetting to see that there are people who want to get help, but they're faced with these systemic issues that don't let them get help. And then their problems get worse because of said systemic issues. And then it's just like, where do you go from there? At some point of my healing journey, I feel like I've reached like a really high level because I've been at it for 9 years. And I talk about these problems in therapy, and it's just disillusionment and pain thinking about the world. And it's just, what do you do in a situation like that? Even as a mental health practitioner, you can't tell your client it's going to be okay because you're in the same situation as them. The system that they are getting affected by is a system that you are also getting affected by. this is the horrible reality of our world, honestly, where it's like you can have the worst day of your whole life and you still have to show up to work the next day. Hope is just dwindling and fading away every single day. The reality of our world, it's we really live in a horrible world. Sometimes as borderliners, we are seen as the horribleness of this world. But we deserve a spot here. We deserve to be here. We were put here for a reason. And we will stay here for a reason. And so, for all my fellow neurodivergent, disabled folks out there, let's build a support system for each other. Let's take care of each other, hold each other accountable, be there for each other, build resources for each other, discuss things each other, find ways to make this world more accessible for each other. I'd like to talk about some creators on Instagram who talk about borderline personality disorder. Ever since my diagnosis, I have found a lot of comfort in the community that these creators have created for us, just by posting content. And then I just go to the comment sections, and there are some people who are commenting these extremely specific things that I have also experienced, and it was such a wonderful feeling to see that I'm not alone in this, and someone out there gets me, and now I finally have access to them. It's a really beautiful feeling. And so if you are someone who suffers with borderline personality disorder, if you think you need to know more about this disorder, if you have a loved one who is a borderliner, you can definitely follow these pages to get more context about what it's like, and it'll be great. So I'm just gonna put the creator names here. They're incredible, by the way. I really, really love them. They're really good. I really like them. I hope you thought this video was helpful in any way, even if it was just a little bit of a time pass thing to watch. There's nothing to judge. We live in a horrible world. You need a break. And if this video was that break, then let's friggin' go, dude. If any of what I said resonated with you, how about you go and seek help? that sounded really mean. Honestly, mean towards myself as well. I meant, like, if you can relate to me, I need help. Maybe you do too. That still sounds mean. If if you're suffering, if you're not doing okay, if you're suffering, get some help. I thank you for watching, and I really thank you for your presence, and I thank this world for art. Speaking of art, let's talk about today's sponsor, Bokeh Art Co. Listen, everyone, I have been using Bokeh Art Co. for years now, and I absolutely love their brand. They are just so incredible. The artwork that they make, the apparel, the stickers, the prints, everything is just incredible. And so you can use my code. All I think about, Bokeh Art Co. is my brand. I got a sponsored deal for my video. That's so cool. If you enjoyed watching this, please support my channel by subscribing and liking and stuff. I don't know how to do this part of the video, and I don't think I ever will. It's okay. Have a great day.